Have you ever taken a moment to look at the map of the Roman Empire at the height of its glory? It stretched from the cold of Britannia to the scorching sands of the Sahara, from the Germanic forests to the golden glow of Egypt, a colossus forged in iron and fire. But right there, in the middle of it all, there was a blank spot, an intriguing void, a region that, despite being surrounded by legions, roads, and provinces, mysteriously remained outside of Rome's control. That blank spot was Arabia. Imagine this. Rome had subdued ancient cities, bent entire cultures to its eagle, and replaced kings with governors. And yet, the Arabian Peninsula, arid, scorching, and seemingly unimportant, remained untouched. But why does this matter? Because for the Romans, Arabia wasn't just a forgotten desert. It was the missing link between the West and the riches of the East. It held the routes that led to incense, spices, perfumes, and silks from India and China. That's why controlling Arabia meant more than just adding another province to the map. It meant controlling the flow of wealth and dominating trade with the edges of the known world. And Rome tried countless times. But what happened still puzzles historians to this day. How could the most powerful empire in all of antiquity fail to conquer a territory that seems so vulnerable? If you're curious to find out, come with me. I'm going to show you everything in this video. As you've probably noticed by now, Rome wasn't blind to Arabia's importance. Far from it. That blank spot on the Roman map wasn't ignored, it was coveted. The Arab kingdoms profited from every gram of spice transported and every shipload of riches. And Rome looked at this with hungry eyes, not about to miss the chance to conquer new territories and, as a bonus, expand its influence and wealth. Because of the battle experience the Roman Empire had accumulated over time, they believed that the absence of a strong government among the Arab peoples would be the key to an easy conquest. With no unified empire to oppose them, the advance of the legions seemed inevitable. But there was something Rome took time to understand. Arabia was not like the other lands they had conquered. There were tribes, hundreds of them, autonomous, decentralized, and suspicious of each other, but united by something stronger than any Roman treaty, a fierce sense of independence. And that was Arabia's real wall. Rome could march over city-states, conquer entire kingdoms with a single decisive battle. But here, each tribal group was a new resistance. Defeating one tribe meant just that, one isolated, local, and temporary victory. The next day, other tribes were already retaliating, attacking supply lines, sabotaging camps, and vanishing into the desert like armed mirages. Unlike the Roman legions, the nomads knew exactly how to survive and how to take advantage of every possible edge in the desert. They moved with incredible speed, while the slow-moving legions pushed forward, suffocating under the blazing sun and heavy sand. The legions, famous for their discipline and strength on solid ground, became easy prey in a war of ambushes, scarcity, and heat. And there was another factor, subtle but decisive. The Arab tribal spirit didn't just reject foreign rule, it despised it. Rome could buy kings, persuade elites, offer protection in exchange for loyalty. But here, power came from lineage and honor. And even if they managed to push deeper, the Romans knew this would mean opening a new and dangerous front in the east. The world wasn't just made up of scattered tribes. A little further beyond lay the Parthians and later, the Sassanids, powerful, well-armed empires that had already faced Rome and won in previous campaigns. For Rome, conquering Arabia meant stepping into a geopolitical game where no future prosperity could be guaranteed. For us, it's your like that sustains and gives life to this channel. So if you're enjoying this video so far, go ahead and do your part. Faced with this whole scenario, Emperor Augustus rose to power, and his gaze quickly turned to that blank spot on the map that continued to challenge Roman pride. In 26 BC, the emperor ordered a direct assault on the commercial heart of Arabia, Marib, the capital of the Sabaean kingdom, a legendary city surrounded by fertile lands, towering walls, and trade routes overflowing with spices. If Rome could take Marib, it would open the gates to eastern trade like never before. To lead this mission, Augustus appointed Gaius Gallus, then governor of Egypt. a man of prestige with command over vast resources. Gallus assembled an army of around 10,000 Roman soldiers, reinforced by 1,000 Nabatean warriors, local allies with knowledge of the region. It was a costly gamble, but one that promised even greater returns. The troops departed from the city of Luscum, a port in northwestern Arabia, and even before the first battle, disaster began to unfold. The local waters were contaminated, and the food caused fevers, vomiting, and strange outbreaks among the legionaries. The march had barely begun, and the legions were already fighting something other than conquest. But Gallus pressed on. Trusting in local knowledge, he handed over the navigation of the campaign to the Nabatean guide Silius. But instead of taking the safer coastal routes, close to supply ships and known water sources, the guide led the army through inland paths, cutting across arid, inhospitable, and deadly terrain. Silius was, in fact, sabotaging the Roman campaign. Supplies vanished. The scorching heat dehydrated everything, and many men dropped where they stood, from hunger, thirst, or exhaustion. Still, out of stubbornness or the pursuit of glory, the advance didn't stop. The campaign managed to capture some strategic locations along the way, like Nagrana, an important stop on the caravan route in what is now Yemen. Some modern sources suggest the Romans may have passed through areas where Mecca and Medina are now located, then known by other names like Yathrib, but no ancient records confirm direct occupation of those cities. In any case, every step forward came at a high cost. Gallus's army marched on, weakened, sick, and starving. And then, after 6 months of intense suffering, what was left of the expedition finally reached its destination. But Marib was not a fallen city. Its walls were intact, its people well-rested, and its troops on high alert. Gallus ordered a siege. For 6 days, the Romans attempted to breach the city with no progress and no opening from the Arabs. On the 7th day, Roman pride gave way, and the order to retreat was issued. The march back was even more brutal. Upon his return, Gaius Gallus was not celebrated. He was dismissed, and his failure became a lesson. Pliny, Strabo, and other chroniclers did not hide the shame. Arabia, which had seemed so vulnerable, had revealed its secret, and Gallus's campaign became a symbol, not of Rome's power, but of its limits.
Are you over 40? Pay attention, your prostate needs care. Prostaviv is a natural supplement made for men who want to improve their performance with their partner, boosting vitality and confidence. It also helps reduce bathroom trips, improve sleep quality, and gives you more energy every day. Take care of yourself now. Click the link in the description or scan the QR code on the screen to claim your exclusive offer.
Decades passed after Gallus's disaster, and Rome learned a bitter lesson. Not everything can be conquered by the sword. But Rome was also patient and knew how to wait for the right moment to act. In the year 106 AD, the throne of the Nabatean kingdom, the same people who had once served as allies and betrayed the Romans, was left vacant. King Rabel II Soter had died, and there was no heir strong enough to maintain political control over that desert jewel. And into that void, Rome advanced. No war, no siege, no heroics. Emperor Trajan, one of the most ambitious and strategic leaders in Roman history, chose to act with cold precision. He simply annexed the Nabatean kingdom into the empire, transforming the territory into the province of Arabia Petrea, a new Roman frontier now encompassing parts of modern-day Syria, Jordan, and northwestern Saudi Arabia. Petra also came to bear the banner of the Roman eagle. Roads were improved and trade routes secured. And at last, Rome claimed a portion, albeit a modest one, of that long-held Eastern dream. But something had changed in the imperial mindset. The southern part of Arabia would remain untamed. Trajan, even with his thirst for expansion, avoided repeating past mistakes. From then on, he sought to control it from a distance through diplomacy, trade, and the right alliances. In the northern part of the peninsula, the Ghassanids emerged, an Arab people, Christianized, nomadic, yet politically astute, who allied themselves with Rome. They came to serve as a flexible shield against hostile tribes that roamed the empire's borders. Guardians of the desert, but also partners. Their knowledge of the terrain and their rewarded loyalty helped maintain relative stability in the region. Under this new dynamic, the province of Arabia Petrea flourished. Trade remained active and money circulated. Rome's power was still felt, even if it wasn't imposed by the sword. But the illusion of control had its limits, because Rome, at its core, was always an empire of stone and road, an empire of fixed structures, solid walls, and clearly drawn borders. And in the deep Arabian interior, none of that worked. How do you maintain a road in a sea of ever-shifting sand? How do you protect outposts when enemies don't arrive by roads, but from the horizon, in invisible, swift, and silent waves? The answer was clear: you couldn't. Roman infrastructure, so effective in Gaul or Hispania, was powerless in this kind of terrain. Roman presence remained limited to the edges. The heart of Arabia remained free, and the centuries that followed only reinforced this impossibility. During the reign of Septimius Severus, Rome no longer had the luxury of looking south with ambition. The real problems came from the east. Mesopotamia was burning. The Parthian Empire, reborn and dangerous, boldly challenged Roman control. Septimius led grueling defensive campaigns, and from then on it became clear: the empire's eastern frontier was an open wound. Later, at the end of the 3rd century, Diocletian tried to reorganize the region. He expanded the province of Arabia Petrea and reinforced military outposts. But this was a response to what was falling apart, not an attempt to conquer what lay beyond. Arabia was no longer a goal, it had become a limit. Rome simply couldn't afford to dream of new deserts while struggling to hold onto the ones it already possessed. The empire, which once aimed to be infinite, was beginning to feel the weight of its own borders. And then came the final blow. In the early 7th century, the Eastern Roman Empire, the heir to ancient Rome, was no longer the invincible force of old. The empire had been divided. Endless wars against the Persians had drained not only the treasury, but also the morale and blood of its armies. And in that moment of weakness, a new power arose. An unexpected power, swift and driven not only by weapons, but by faith. The Muslim Arabs, unified by the newly born Islamic religion and led by charismatic, strategic commanders, these warriors didn't need maps. The desert was their home. They knew every shadow and every path where Rome stumbled. In 634 AD, they began their offensive. They advanced through Syria with frightening speed and captured fortified cities with ease. And when they reached Arabia Petrea, that province Rome had struggled so hard to maintain, they met no real resistance. The garrisons were weak, and the legionaries were few. In a matter of months, what had taken Rome centuries to build was simply erased by the sands. Arabia, which had never been fully conquered, no longer belonged even to the empire's edges. It was lost for good, and Rome's dream of dominating the East ended there. Arabia became the ultimate reminder: not even Rome could conquer everything. As the centuries passed, priorities changed as well. The Germanic tribes came, the Parthians, the Sassanids, and finally the Islamic armies, who erased, once and for all, the last traces of Roman presence in the peninsula. And if Rome had conquered the desert, would the Middle East be different today? Would Arabia be Roman? I want to know what you think. Leave your thoughts in the comments. If the story surprised you, leave a like and subscribe to the channel. There's a lot Rome doesn't want you to find out, but we're here to tell you everything. And if you want to discover who the Vandals were, the ones who challenged the Roman Empire in antiquity, just click here on the screen and check it out.